Welcome to week 2. So this week we're going to be talking about strategy. And the first part of strategy is you need intelligence. Before you can put together a plan, you need to know what it is that you're going up against. Now first I want to talk a little bit more about context from the last few lectures. And context also has to do with the levels that something exists within. And that's how do I understand how parts play together? And a window can sit within a spire. That spire can sit on top of a building. And that building can exist within a neighborhood. And so based on where you're working, this is the secret to finding opportunity. You either have to go smaller. So if I'm looking at a spire, I'm looking for an opportunity, I could just focus on the window. Or one of those statues. On the other hand, I can go in the opposite direction. I could go larger, look at the bigger picture. Everything exists within something else. Now, here's an example. Every American, the vision is let's zoom back to 1900. The vision is that everybody's going to own a car. And so you had literally 300 car companies in the United States all competing. And this is what I mean by gold rush technologies. You have 300 people who are all trying to differentiate themselves. And here's the problem. Everybody looked at a car like this. It's about parts that put together on an assembly line. And if I build a car and sell it, people will come. However, Henry Ford, as you all know, everybody thinks it's because of the assembly line. Well, actually, the technique of the assembly line had been around for decades. There was actually nothing new to it. What Henry Ford saw was simply this. A price of a car was $525. That was his vision. At the time, a car could cost as much as $100,000. And so what Henry Ford did was create for his workers a livable wage. And by creating a livable wage, now people could afford to buy a car. Here was a drawback, though, of the livable wage. Alfred P. Sloan, the MIT Business School, the Sloan School of Management, is because Sloan was an alum. This is what he saw. What Alfred P. Sloan saw was that, yes, people could afford a car, but people didn't want to chunk down a third of their salary cash for one item. On the other hand, if you made it like $10 a month in payments or something. So Alfred P. Sloan was the first one to come up with the financing system. And so he trumped Ford. So as you see, Ford went to one level and Sloan took it to another level. Here's another example. Ken Olsen, once a Digital Equipment Corporation, or DEC, was the second largest computer company in the world behind IBM. Ken Olsen was the one who took a computer that fit an entire floor at MIT, and he found a way to get it on your desktop. But Ken Olsen sincerely believed that nobody would ever want a computer in their home. And then something happened in the 1980s. Some guy named Steve Jobs came along, and he says, I want to put a computer in everybody's home. That was his vision. Two totally different visions. Who was right? Well, basically a computer was about designing a tool. You assemble it, you sell it as a technical product, and guess who you're selling it to? You're selling it to nerds and geeks. That's the way the computer business worked up until the 1980s. And then Steve Jobs came along, and what he saw is that there was a barrier between the liberal arts and technology. How do you bridge those two parts together? And that's by simplifying it. And that's, no matter what you say about Apple products, they've always been about simplicity. They're the computer that works straight out of the box or anything else. And the reason why Jobs did that is he wanted to break down the barrier between technology and liberal arts. That technology wasn't this complicated, scary thing. It was actually simple and friendly. And by being simple and friendly, it touched your emotions, and subsequently that led to Apple getting a tsunami of cash and Ken Olsen's company basically getting destroyed. That it dropped in value. It tried to get into portable computing too late, and then it got consumed by Compaq. So that's what I mean by looking at levels. And it's a very important technique in marketing and also in entrepreneurship. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about the rest of the 5 C's and also the strategic landscape. So we're going to talk about collaborators, your company, what to consider, competition, how do you define them and evaluate them, the strategic landscape, which is about lock-in and lock-out and other factors, and the entrepreneurs, using them as an example of how this all works. So we know we need, if we're going to attack something, again, in marketing, using military analogies actually works pretty well. And so when we think about collaborators, your business, especially a new business, has 3 major functions. It's about strategy, marketing, and your product. And so when you think about collaborators, who can you partner with? And so what you're trying to do is either make what you do even better or expand on what you do or fill in a gap somewhere. And so it could be, and these are the factors that people look at with regards to these 3. In terms of your company, the way you have to think about, how is my company unique? What is it that I excel at? And you either excel at, you have the best price, you have the best product, or I know the customer better than anybody else. That's how your customer excels, and you can excel on more than one dimension. Price for startups. If all you're doing is offering a price reduction, that is the hardest dimension to sell on. And that's because there's so much risk on you. You have to want to do something for more than just money. Is it about the product? The problem with product, you think if I build a better mousetrap, people will come, and that's not necessarily the case. And customer intimacy. What we try to do now is make it closer, more personal. Actually, if you notice about a lot of my lectures, what don't you see? You don't see a lot of bullet points. Actually, if you can imagine all these lectures for my first year and a half here out of the Poly School, all my lectures had bullet points. As you can see, this was very dry and hard. And then one student just said to me, I really like the information in your lectures, Dr. Cho, but your lectures are kind of dry. And so this is where I went to graphics, and a lot of students like it a lot better. They learn it a lot better. It's actually easier to teach because it's more storytelling. And it gives me a chance to exercise some humor in some of the pictures I pick. Anyway, I digress. In terms of your company, good companies have what's called an integrative strategy, and that's that every last little piece of your company relates to something that you're trying to do. For example, Walmart, they're the low-cost provider. They do real-time stocking. They look at data for pricing and change in real time. Not only that, but they're the first ones to come up with hub and spoke distribution. Instead of a truck going out and having to travel large distances, they set up their distribution centers within the center of a lot of stores. So if a store needed to get stock that day for something that's sold out or something they see in their data that has very high demand, they can respond to it more quickly. And what it comes down to is it's your activities that define and how you excel at. Now, where would you place the following products? Bill Gates and Microsoft. Is it about price, product, or customer intimacy? Microsoft, it's about product, isn't it? It's not the cheapest product, but it's the most reliable. Richard Branson and Virgin, what is he about? Customer intimacy. It's still an airplane flight, but he gives you the best experience. And I'll let you look through the rest of these. Obviously, Costco is about price. Now, in marketing, there are 2 different opinions. One opinion is marketing is all about taking great care of the customer. And the second opinion of marketing is it's all about hand-to-hand combat. And who's right? They both are. 2 different views, but you have to take care of the customer, and you're going to go up against competition. In the next video,